Right, now this is exciting because today I'm off to the Lakeside. I think Richard Ashdown's fairly safe. This is a bit of a surprise, this one, because the qualification tournament for the Lakeside World Championships, hosted by the WDF, was originally meant to be in the Netherlands. But obviously, what with one thing and another, with restrictions, etc., WDF quite sensibly decided to split that tournament, half in the Netherlands, 2 men and 1 woman, and it will qualify, and then they've decided to have the other tournament at Lakeside, where 2 men, 1 woman, and of course boys and girls will also qualify for a place at the Lakeside World Championships. And instead of the old format, which, if you remember in the BDO, where you'd have to perform very well regionally in order to qualify, and I don't think there was an entry fee in addition to that. Basically, if you won a big open or if you did well in your county, you would qualify for the qualifier. Instead of that, they've decided to open it up and just have all comers enter, so for £25, which is quite good because the same price as an exhibition. So that means that people like me can enter, and I've entered, and I'm going to pick up Andrew Sinclair now from Inside the WDF podcast. Excellent podcast, do listen, do subscribe, in addition to the weekly darts cast, of course, to go to Lakeside and play at Lakeside, or at least in the same building. And you may think I've lost the plot by doing this, and you may be right, of course, but for me, the reason I'm going, well, there's a number of reasons, but the primary reason why I wanted to go and do it and say that I've played there is bucket list purposes, because Lakeside will always have very special connotations to me and mean an awful lot, because when I was 8 years old, watching telly in January, Lakeside was on the BBC, and it was the first experience I'd ever seen of darts, and I remember it so vividly. It was Marshall James versus Les Wallace. Les Wallace walked out with a man playing bagpipes. Marshall James walked out waving the Welsh flag. You had Martin Fitzmaurice and George Noble on as referees. You had Tony Green and John Hart on commentary at the top of their game, and Doogie Donnelly presenting, one of my favourite all-time presenters, and I just fell in love with it. But from there it became a yearly obsession. I didn't have Sky, so couldn't get involved in that side of things. And to say that I've gone there and been to Lakeside and played in the same venue, still even now would mean an awful lot. And also, I think the thing is, with stuff like this, and what I've learned on a personal note over the last couple of years, is that you have to do these things while you still can, because you never quite know when it will be taken away from you, as we've all learned, unfortunately. So yeah, it should be a really exciting day. There's a lot of people that I haven't seen in forever, like before pre-lockdowns and pre-COVID, so that will be very exciting as well. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a very exciting day. So thank you for watching.
Oh no, you're keep your own way.
Well, here's some words I thought I'd never say this time last year. We're reporting from Lakeside at the qualifier for the WDF World Championship, which is coming up next month. Andrew Sinclair from Inside the WDF podcast is here with us. Andrew, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you, mate. Looking forward to the day. It's going to be a tough day of competition, but at least I can say today I've played at Lakeside and I was only a handful of games away from the World Championship.
Well, yes, exactly. Well, that's the only reason we're here. I mean, it's rude not to, isn't it? Because this should have been, lest we forget, in Assen. It is not in Assen because of you-know-what, or they've split it, rather. So, an hour's drive down the road, it would be rude not to come and tick this off the bucket list.
Well, exactly. I mean, I have no expectations, and rightfully so, but wanted to support the event. I think it's going to be a good event. And as you say, only an hour away, why not?
Nice to donate towards the prize fund. Okay, so let's just go through some of the draws. Who should we be looking out for today? Boys and girls, first of all.
The boys, I think it's very hard to look past Luke Littler and Leighton Bennett. I think, they're the names everybody's going to look out for. Luke's been smashing it up this year. Leighton's obviously into the JDC World Final. He's got eyes on Q-School next year. So they're ones I'd be looking at. But also Adam D, who won the Irish Open Youth Final. He's well worth watching out for. Very steady player, good scorer. For the girls, there's only 10 of them, which is a bit disappointing. But I would suspect either Eleanor Cairns or Lauren Stoko would be my tips for today.
I'm going to put Ellie Williams in there as well because she's been on my channel before. And then the women, only 60, slightly disappointing. Hard to look past Rhiannon O'Sullivan, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think I posted something similar along those lines this morning. She's obviously the favourite, and rightly so. But beyond her, Casey Gallagher, playing well at County but not done the tour this year, so she could be dangerous. Maggie Sutton's always tough to play. Denise Cassidy's a tough player as well. And a dark horse I'd chuck out there, Steph Stutley, throwing into big averages at County this season over a short format like we've got today. That's going to suit her down to the ground. So she would be someone that I could see coming around on the outside.
Wants to register, please come up to the front desk and we can register you into the tournament. There's no queue at the moment, so we'll get it done nice and quickly.
Some genuine audio to prove that we're here, not just in our back garden.
The dulcet tones of Nick Rolls.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the men's. Now, looking past us, of course, we have to eliminate ourselves from the equation. Really could be anyone's. Twitter's listed every name going.
Other than us.
Other than enough. Yeah. Disappointing. I can see Daryl Pilgrim there, one of my friends, who I would suggest could be, one to watch potentially. Hard to look past Jared Cole. Who are you?
Jared Cole.
Who are you? Well, indeed. Who are you? Let's not go there. Who are you looking out for?
I would have said Sean McDonald, but of course I announced this morning that he's already in. Following the withdrawal of one of the Russian Federation players. Scott Walters is someone I've had my eye on all week. He's been playing a lot in the online live league, which is best of 7, similar format to here today, so that could suit him down to the ground. Some steady county players as well, the likes of Stu Wilson, Kevin Garcia, Aaron Monk possibly, if he's got his head screwed on.
Gary Stafford in the background.
Gary Stafford, friend of the show. John Scott, he's first reserve, so obviously potentially not as important for him today, but he could go well. Paul Mitchell, if he can hit the doubles, I think Paul Mitchell's a dangerous player as well. But I mean, trying to pick winners in the men's, I think, is a fool's errand because there's so many players here that can beat everyone else. It's just going to be a matter of attrition and who can last the longest.
Well, exactly. It's the Grand National of darts. It reminds me, being here, it reminds me a bit of what a UK Open qualifier to some extent, doesn't it? Because everyone, it's a reasonably low price to enter, big venue. I mean, maybe not what Riley's used to do, but this could be similar to what UK Open qualifiers look in the future. So yes, it is difficult, and we're on Dart Connect.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
We're here basically just to prop up everyone else, I think.
Well, I mean, somebody needs a bye in the first round, so it might as well be me.
And then we would have progressed further than we could have ever hoped for. So, fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us. And, we'll catch up after our inevitable swift exits from this event.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
So, spoiler alert, I didn't win my first round match at the Lakeside Qualifier. I drew Andy Sturton, who is a Berkshire County B player and is a very steady player. And I was actually pleased. I gave a relatively good account of myself, all things considered. 57 average, thank you very much. Not too bad for me. You'll have to take my word for it. Quite a few treble 12s in the first couple of legs, and there's a double 19 in there as well. Very, very ropey. And then the next couple of legs, the third and fourth, when I'd calmed down a bit, a few tons and a few scores of 11, which I seem to remember. And then, of course, lost 4-0 and had a delicious bagel on a Saturday afternoon. Now, what I would say, a Sunday afternoon rather. Now, what I would say is there was a glorious moment where it became very clear that I was the last match in the draw of the last 2-5-6. So from 12 o'clock to 2:50 p.m, I was still in, and I told everyone, "I'm still in, everyone. I'm still in. I haven't played a game yet, but don't worry about that. I'm still in," which was quite bizarre, really, because Darren Johnson drew Aaron Monk and lost in the first round. I thought, my God, there's Darren Johnson losing, and I'm still in the competition. But there we go. So we're doing a summary now. We've left Lakeside. Spoiler alert: we didn't qualify, but Andrew and I are now in the car on the way back. We'll review the day. So, Andrew, first of all, how did you find it?
It was good. There were a lot of people, and I'm not sure the logistics of the boards were maybe as good as they could have been, certainly for time purposes. But it was good. It was good to see people. The less said about my performance, the better. But good to get out, good to see people, and obviously good to see people chasing the dream of qualifying for the World Championships.
I really, really enjoyed it. I think, I've always wanted to say that I've played darts in Lakeside, as daft as that sounds. It's a bucket list thing, isn't it? It means so much. It meant so much to my sort of, formative years of being a fan. It was great to actually be in the venue and playing there. So the big question is, Andrew, so I averaged 57. I didn't win a leg. How does that compare?
I think I averaged 38 and lost 4-0 as well. That is the worst I've ever played in a competitive setting, and I was genuinely furious with myself. To the point, the guy I played was really good. I had no idea who he was. Chap from Wales, I think he averaged about 85. So he played well, but I got to like the third leg and I was just like, you know what? I've just got to try and save face here and get the average up. So I just went down to 19s because I was like, I know I'm going to hit singles. So it was just like 57, 54, 46, and I was just like, we're getting there. And then I think I finished with the 38. But John Scott reliably informed me I didn't have the lowest average.
No, it's not. 36 was the worst. I saw that game as well because he played my friend Scott Golding. So yes, no, you're not the bottom of the performance leaderboard.
Although not a million miles away.
Possibly not.
But the only way is up.
So the last time I went to, it's not BDO, is it? It's WDF, of course. But Alex and I very infamously went to that World Masters. Redraws, really badly run. Overall, what did you make of today?
It's a much better run, I would say. The Dart Connect system obviously means that a lot of the work is done for you. It's not a case of going up to control, giving you a score, them telling you your next board assignment, what time, against whom, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot more efficient. You've got the age-old problem of marking. People don't enjoy marking, especially tends to be a relationship between the better player you are, the less prepared to mark you are, which is one of those things.
That's true.
But that's something no technology is going to get rid of. Dart Connect makes it easier because you don't have to do the maths, but then there's a lot of them who don't like using the scoreboard. So it's one of those things. But generally, I thought it was run really well. The only thing I would say, as we kind of chatted about before we started recording, was the allocation of the boards. I think when you've got 272 men, I don't think trying to fit that onto just 16 and then using the other 16 for the ladies and the youth, I don't think is the right distribution of resources.
Yeah, so exactly. So I think first and foremost, really, really hard task to organise any event, even if it is on Dark Connect. It's really, really difficult. There was one incident which we can't talk about, but you know, there was an incident which Nick Rolls dealt with so well, and I did really, really feel for him, because it was Nick Rolls on the registration desk, and it was. I mean, he dealt with it so well. I mean, I think I'd be still shaking now from having to sort of deal with something like that. But he dealt with it, you know, just fantastically. So I don't begrudge, because it's a thankless task, isn't it? Organising stuff like this, it's really, really hard. So there's obviously there's that element to consider. Yeah, I mean, if we were nitpicking, yes, there was a point today, mid-afternoon, where the youths finished, the women's was mainly done, and all these boards became available. 17 to 32 or 17 to 30 in that sort of region, which you could allocate, because the great thing about the Dark Connect system is you can, on the iPad, select the board and just play the match, even if it's not allocated to a different board. I think most people know what I mean by that. And the PDC do that for challenge tours when there's a slow board. So they've got 32 boards, and then they've got 8 in the middle, which are used as spares, and you dump anyone on there that, you know, if you're in the long queue, then that's where they go, basically, and then they catch up that way. So I think they could have utilised that. There was also an issue in relation to the prelims, and it was sort of a guess as you go. So basically, I chalked a prelim first of all. That one winner then came up on the system as having to play again in the next match, whereas normally you would put them to the bottom of the queue. Yeah. So then, so that happened, and every board did this differently. So when I was chalking, I just clicked the next match, not the person that won. I said, "Right, don't ignore that, but you'll go in the queue. Just stick around here and decide amongst yourselves," which is what duly happened. But other boards did different things, so there was a bit of a bone of contention about that. But we're nitpicking. You know, it is a late finish because we've left at 5 for the men, and they're still going now. What's the time now? 5:30.
And they're still last 32, last 64. So they're going to be there a long while, and that means it's a long old day. So
yeah, you know, and there's no prize money, remember, but we knew that before we entered.
Well, technically, you get £1,000 if you lose in the first round. There's £1,000 guaranteed for the winners today.
That is true. So, women's, Rhianna Sullivan qualified. What did you make of that?
Well, I actually chalked the ladies' final, which was I volunteered to do. Paul Jones was looking for somebody. I volunteered. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good, well-fought game. And to be fair, Rhianna was very lucky to be in that final. She played poorly by her own admission in her first game and probably should have lost. And then against Ros Bulmer in the semi-final, she was 3-1 down, 4-3 down, and Ros was left on 81. Went treble 19, double 16, hit it, then realised she'd miscounted, bust it. She had to walk away. Rhianna won that leg and obviously won the match. And then against Robin, tough back and forth, first 6 legs evenly split, took out double 19 to make it 4-3, and then from there, I think in her head, I think Rhianna was like, I'm there now, backed on by a lot of support. All the Welsh people seemed to be cheering her on, giving her a big roar, and she's a tough player. She's played well at Lakeside before, come through that qualifier before, and she will be a horrible draw, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. She will be a horrible draw for whoever she gets in the draw on Tuesday, because she's so steady, she doesn't go away in any leg, and she's a good finisher. So you wouldn't want to be playing Rhianna anyway.
No, and a good fun fact, in deepest, darkest lockdown earlier on in the year, MAD did a stream. I did the streaming for the virtual event. She won it. So it just goes to show that, you know, all that lockdown virtual stuff, it can pay dividends, can't it?
I did feel, sorry, just to say something, I did feel for Robin Byrne, because she came through a scrappy one against Denise Cassidy, and we were talking beforehand, no Irish woman has ever played in the World Championships. So there would have been a lot of history for her there. And I've interviewed her before. She's a lovely girl. She's a former World Youth Master. And she's had real battles with dartitis. Now, you'd never know that watching her play. She's got a lovely throw. But for her to qualify for the first time, I know that would have meant a lot to her. And to lose out in the final, that's probably going to sting. But she's one of those players, same as Rianne. If they did the tour, like some of the others, they wouldn't need to be in that qualifier, because they would qualify every year, because they are genuinely top-class players.
Absolutely. Who caught your eye in the youth?
I didn't see a lot of it, and I have to say, the boys, the way the draw worked was absolutely horrible. Luke Littler, Leighton Bennett, Adam D and Tavis Dudney, probably the 4 favourites for the whole thing, were all in the same group, which was brutal. Luke Littler went out early, which was a big surprise. He lost to Tavis. Tavis had actually lost to Luke in the England Open final and the British Open final. And with Luke sat on 25 in the last leg decider, Tavis took out a 1-4-6, which was, big ball stuff. He then lost to Leighton Bennett in the semi-final, so Leighton's in there, and Charlie Large. Good stuff from Charlie, but looking at the 4, the 2 from Assen, the 2 from here, it would take a very brave man or woman to bet against Leighton Bennett winning the whole thing, because he's been played well before the semi-finals. I think banged in a 97 in the quarters, and obviously he's got big aspirations of Q School, of the Pro Tour, of the Dev Tour. So he's got big things ahead of him, and hopefully winning that youth title would be a big springboard. But obviously, something to bear in mind there, youth final is going to be the 9th of January, as is the first day of Q School, which he would need to play in.
Yes, yes, exactly. I think a few people are going to be in that position, aren't they? And that's often been discussed on social media. And obviously, as we record this, we don't know the men that have qualified at this point. So who caught your eye? Because and then we'll play this back when they get through.
Richie Howson, he's obviously riding the crest of a wave at the moment, because I think he won the Essex Men's Super League for the first time ever, first time in his career. He's qualified for the World Seniors, and the last game of his I saw before we left, he banged in a 107 average. Now, 107 averages are lovely and the things that I only ever dream of, but at the end of the day, if you throw that in the last 64, ultimately that counts for naught if you don't then get through. So Richie, I would say, is playing well. John Scott's playing well, of course. He's the first reserve, ticking over nicely. I think John O'Shea was still in, again ticking over, and he's one of those who only gets better as the day goes on. Trying to think. I know Robert Owen was going well as well.
Robert Owen is one, and Jared Cole is the other, isn't he? So
let's see, Jared put the good work in early on.
Yes. So it'll be interesting to see, won't it? But what a real treat, and thank you for joining me on this car journey, Andrew. We'll have to do it again, won't we?
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you very much. And there's it on in the middle.
Yeah, bet. Well, congratulations to Johnny Haynes and to Jared Cole. I think those were 2 names we sort of picked out in the melee, didn't we, Andrew? Hopefully we did. Congratulations to those 2, and Rianne O'Sullivan, of course, and of course the youth players who have booked their place at Lakeside, which unfortunately now, since this was recorded, has been moved to the spring. Thank you very much for watching.